In 1965, an extraordinary story of survival began in the island nation of Tonga, located in the South Pacific. It is a true story about 6 teenage boys who survived on a deserted island for more than a year. Their experience is often called the real-life Lord of the Flies, but the truth is very different from the dark and violent novel. Instead of fighting, the boys supported one another. Instead of chaos, they built peace and cooperation. Their story shows the power of teamwork, friendship, and human kindness under extreme pressure. This real event remained unknown to most of the world for decades until it was rediscovered in the 21st century, astonishing readers everywhere. The story begins in Nuku'alofa, the capital of Tonga. 6 boys, Sean Fatawa, Mano Tadao, Stephen Tada, Kolo Fekatoa, Luke Vicoso, and David Tavita, attended a Catholic boarding school there. They were between 13 and 16 years old, full of energy, curiosity, and dreams. Like many teenagers, they sometimes felt tired of their strict routine and limited freedom. They wanted something more exciting than classes, chores, and discipline. One day, they came up with a plan for an adventure. They wanted to visit a nearby island and explore. The idea felt thrilling, even though none of them understood how dangerous it could become. The boys decided to borrow a fishing boat from a local fisherman. They sneaked to the harbor at night and took the boat without permission, hoping to return it later. They brought only a little food, some bananas, a few coconuts, and a small stove. They had no map and no compass. None of them knew much about sailing. They simply believed they could manage. The plan was to sail about 90 miles to an island called Eua. But the ocean can be unpredictable, and soon the boys learned that the sea is far more powerful than they expected. Not long after they left Tonga, a violent storm hit. Heavy winds and huge waves slammed the small boat. The wind tore their sail apart, and the boat's rudder broke. With no engines, no sail, and no control, the boys drifted helplessly. The water soaked their small supply of food. They spent 8 long days lost at sea. Their throats became dry, their stomachs empty, and their bodies weak. To survive, they collected rainwater in coconut shells whenever clouds appeared. At times, they caught fish with their bare hands or simple hooks and ate them raw. They tried to keep each other strong, sharing whatever they had. The ocean felt endless. They did not know when or if they would see land again. After more than a week, they spotted a dark shape on the horizon. It was the island of Ada, a rocky, uninhabited island far from normal travel routes. The island had high cliffs, rough terrain, and no fresh water visible from the shore. But for the boys, it was hope. They managed to bring the boat close enough to swim. Reaching the shore felt like a miracle. Even though they were exhausted, dehydrated, and starving, they were alive. What they did next makes their story so unique in history. Instead of panicking or turning against each other, the boys made a promise to cooperate and stay peaceful. They explored the island and found a cave containing fresh water. This cave became one of their most important resources. They built a small camp by gathering leaves, branches, and stones. They created a garden on an abandoned terrace left by earlier inhabitants who lived there many decades before. They grew bananas, taro, and pumpkins. They also learned to catch fish, trap birds, and collect eggs from the cliffs. Survival required constant work, but they did not give up. The boys organized themselves into a group with clear rules. They divided chores so that work was fair. Some collected firewood, some cooked, some looked for food, and some took care of tools or shelter. They built a fire using friction and kept it burning every day for their entire stay on the island. Protecting the fire became a shared responsibility. Without it, they could not cook food or stay warm on cold nights. The boys even built a small chicken coop after catching wild chickens. Their resourcefulness amazed researchers when the story became known many years later. To avoid arguments, the boys created a conflict resolution system. If 2 boys got angry or started to fight, they separated and walked to opposite ends of the island. They returned only when they had calmed down. This peaceful method prevented tension from growing and protected the group's harmony. They also used music as emotional support. Every evening, they sang songs and prayed together. Singing helped them feel connected, hopeful, and connected to their culture even on a lonely island. Life on Ada was not easy. Food sometimes ran low. Rainstorms destroyed parts of their shelter. One boy, Stephen, fell from a cliff while trying to collect eggs and broke his leg. The injury was serious, but the others treated him with care. They built a splint from wood and vines. They took turns feeding him, helping him move, and keeping him company. It took months for him to heal. Their kindness and teamwork impressed people later who learned about the event. Despite the difficult environment, the boys stayed creative. They built a small gym with homemade weights. They created a badminton court using sticks and carved balls. They invented ways to stay active and keep their spirits up. All of this helped their mental health during the 15 months they spent in isolation. The island was steep and dangerous, but they adapted to it and grew stronger. While the boys fought for survival, their families back in Tonga were heartbroken. Search teams looked for them early on but found nothing. The ocean is vast and the boys had drifted far from normal routes. After months of searching, everyone assumed they had died at sea. Funerals were held and the community mourned them. No one imagined they were alive on a remote island. Everything changed in September 1966. An Australian sailor named Peter Warner happened to pass near the island while traveling with his fishing crew. From a distance, Warner noticed an unusual patch of burned grass. Since Ada was supposed to be uninhabited, he became curious and sailed closer. As he approached, he saw figures on the cliff's boys shouting, waving, and running toward the shore. Warner could hardly believe it. The boys swam to his boat, excited and desperate. When they explained who they were, he radioed Tonga for confirmation. The response stunned him. These boys had been missing for more than a year. Warner rescued the boys and brought them home. Their families cried with joy, hugging them tightly after believing they were gone forever. The entire community celebrated their return. Instead of receiving punishment for stealing the boat, the boys were forgiven because their survival story showed great courage, creativity, and cooperation. Warner also helped the boys by giving them jobs on his fishing boats, and he became a lifelong friend to them. The story remained mostly unknown outside Tonga until historian Rutger Bregman wrote about it in 2020. He called it the real Lord of the Flies, but emphasized the opposite nature of the two stories. While the fictional boys in Lord of the Flies turned violent and cruel, the real Tongan boys showed compassion, discipline, and solidarity. Their story became powerful evidence that humans, especially children, can act with kindness even in extreme situations. The Tongan Castaways' survival was not luck alone. It was the result of shared responsibility, cultural values, inner strength, and the deep bond between them. Their story teaches us that cooperation can overcome fear, hope can defeat despair, and friendship can carry people through the harshest challenges. Today, the story continues to inspire people around the world as a shining example of teamwork and human goodness.